All right, so nice to see everybody. Let's sit on something to add some height. Ignore the barky dog. Cross the shins, one in front of the other. Flex the feet. Place the hands on your thighs. Press down, lift your spine up. Drop the shoulders away from your neck. Keep your spine lifted. Let the head lift up and move back slightly. So you're not pulling the neck down. Moving the base of the skull back just a little bit to start getting the head above the shoulders. Press the hands down again, lift up. Take a nice deep breath in. As you exhale, draw the back ribs towards each other. Side ribs stretch forward, and the front ribs lift up. And then let your head move back again. Let your arms relax. Shoulders away from the ears, but keep the rib cage lifted so you can take a deeper breath in. Let the eyes close for a few minutes and kind of create our internal journaling process. All right. I think it's easy to think that we always have to have an answer for anything that's going on. That something new that pops up needs to have a new answer or a new solution or a new way of handling it or a new way of thinking about it. And we should take each situation as it comes and look at it. But that doesn't mean you always have to reinvent the wheel for how you fix it. Sometimes, like in yoga class, someone has a knee pain. Suppose that we do all the time can teach you something about it or help you. We should be flexible, not just in the hamstrings, but we should be flexible, not just in our hamstrings, but in our way we're willing to look at the things we're going through. But that doesn't mean that we don't always continue to use what we already know that works and let it evolve, just as we do. So, my friends, as we go through the practice tonight, even though the things we might do may be same as you've done dozens of times before, what are you going through now that is different than the first time you did it or the last time you did it? Can you give yourself that freedom and space to be comfortable in exploring what you already know and how it might help you with all the new things you face day to day, being a little older, or whatever may come? Because that's what gives us stability and a starting point so we can continue to look at the things that we go through and the world might go through so we don't feel lost every time there's another change. Because as I think we all know, life isn't going to stop changing. But we find the things that work for us, be flexible in letting them change, but use them as a starting point. We don't feel like we have to start over every time something new pops up. Whether it's in the body, in the mental emotional state, or other. Bring the palms together at the chest, let the thumbs touch the sternum. We'll shortly 3 times and then begin. Take a breath. Lift your feet. Bow your head for a moment. Salute the essence of yoga inside yourself. Bring your hands into your lap, let your head rise, and your eyes open. So nice to see everybody. Come up off of your support, and if you're using a bolster or blankets, keep those nearby. You're not going to get rid of them, but put them about in the middle of your mat. So you're going to place both knees on the blankets or bolster or block, whatever you're using to sit on or you have at home as a prop. You can even use large books for this if you need, or couch cushions or large thick pillows. Put both knees on it, turn the toes under, and sit back on the heels. The top of the feet are not flat. Your toes are turned under, so your heels are up in the air above the toes. Your knees are on the bolster. This will start stretching the foot out, the arch, and the ankle, and start to create some more stretch to the knee, and eventually shin. There was a request to work on shins and calves. And so when you work on shins or calves, you have to look at first the ankle, foot, ankle, and the knee. The muscle that you really end up working on, the shin bone, is the muscle that goes between the shin and the outer part of that muscle, the calf that wraps towards the shin bone. That's that connective tissue. If you're a runner or if you ever get shin splints from walking a lot, shin splints aren't actually, like I thought when I was younger, fracturing of the bone, right? A splint often sounded like there was like a crack or something in the bone. It's actually where the muscle is pulling off of the bone. That muscle that holds the bone to the calf muscle is coming apart and tearing. That's actually what a shin splint is. And you can affect these, and that partially stretches out that shin bone area. So with your toes turned under, sitting back on your heels, knees on your bolster, you kind of start here, start getting strength in the foot. Now push the foot down into the ground. This does not mean take your foot to the floor, your sole of your foot, but push those 5 joints you're on down harder so the toes bend a little more. And then pick up both knees up off your bolster. Yeah, you can use your hands on your bolster for balance as much as you need. But when you pick your knees up, don't let your heels fall towards the floor. Keep picking your heels up just as high as when your knees were on the bolster itself. Yeah, if you want to play with your balance, you can take your hands off whatever support you're using so you feel like you have to work the thighs a little more, the hip, the ankles a little more, the arches a little more. And then feel in your foot where you're getting pressure in the one side of the foot versus the other. Try to get pressure across more of the foot, the 5 joints as you can. And this is where our balance comes in. This is where a lot of other muscle in the arch foot come into play. Good. Bring your knees down. Come forward so the top of the foot is flat on your blankets or bolsters or pillows or whatever. Your ankle is just slightly hanging off the edge. Bring your feet together and sit back on your heels. Yeah, just simply top of the foot on the bolster or blankets or whatever you're using. You can even use a block if you want to be really hardcore about it. I'm not asking you, I'm just giving you an option. If you really want to like stretch to the extreme on this, you put your foot on top of a block. I've done it before. I do it a little bit today still. So when you sit back on your heels here, flex your buttocks so you feel yourself engaged, and then totally let your glutes and thighs relax so your body weight really drops down on the heel. If we're tight in the foot, tight in the knee, and the quads, and the calf, the ankles, or have issues or pain in those areas, there's a tendency to kind of like try and always lift up off of them. This is not abnormal, but the best thing to do is just to let that weight drop back down on it. And then you just kind of chill. Lean back a little bit even, because it's easy to want to kind of lean your chest forward because it takes a little bit of weight off the ankles. Now lean back. Just don't take your hands on anything. Just lean your body weight back a hair. If you have a pet that's loud, you probably have to keep one hand on that pet to keep it from being loud. All right. Take your feet back, turn your toes back under, knees on your prop. Turn your toes under, sit back on your heels, pick both knees back up. So when you sit back on the heels and even try to pick the feet up, and even if you can't sit fully back on your heels, don't worry about trying to pick the knees up. It's once your hips hit the heel firmly, just even being on your knees and sitting back a little bit can be a lot for many of us and really begin to challenge the foot, ankle, calf. Good. Come on down for a moment. Now let's add to it. Get a blanket or a pillow. A thin pillow will work fairly well. Tristan, there's one right behind you on the couch. Take that blanket and you're going to take the edge of it or your pillow. You're going to take one edge of it and put it behind your knees. So your knees are going to be on the bolster. It's going to be behind the back side of the knee, not under, not in front of, but right in between the calf and thigh. Turn your toes under, tuck it up way in there, and then sit back on it. Take a moment, go ahead, get this stuff. It's fine. We got a whole hour. We can spend a lot of time getting detailed. I will admit I have a desire to like break out so many of the props and so many things we might do in the studio, but I know not everyone has all these things at home. Got to try and be cognizant of that when I pick out these poses. So just sit back. When you put something between the calf and the thigh right behind the knee, it actually spaces that knee out and it can actually help remove some of the stress and tension. A lot of the ways that we stretch the calf or stretch the backside of the legs is we often push them out really straight, right? We'll fold forward, stretch the hamstring. Stretching the calf, maybe you put your heel or put your toes on something and stretch your heel down like an incline. That works, but to get some of the muscle of how the calf connects into the shin bone, that connective tissue I talked about, or up into the knee, you actually can get quite a bit of release by flattening it out like we're doing. So with the toes turned under, sitting back on your heels, super easy. Take your feet flat with your knees still on the bolster and that thing behind your leg. Yeah. Don't let your feet fall out wide. Pull your heels close together and sit back. So this can be as passive or as active as you want it to be in your practice. Eventually, you want these kind of postures with your feet and legs to be very comfortable because a lot of them are what leads to meditative work. Sitting in Baddha Konasana or Thunderbolt or things like that. But here, we're here to shape the legs. So sitting your weight into your heels, push your knees really hard down into the bolster, but lean back towards your heels with your hips. So your quads become active pushing the knee joint down. But then your body weight, instead of pushing you up and forward, you lean your upper body back just a hair, so your weight has to come down. And it's going to start to challenge your feet and other parts a little bit. Now, don't do this to the point of hurting yourself, of course, but you feel it. And you might not hold it long. It's not an easy thing to do. All right, come forward. Take the top of your feet on your blanket bolster. Your knees come forward. And take the blanket that's behind your thigh, between your calf and hamstring, and put a roll in it, something small. If you have a pillow, you just kind of crimp the pillow a little bit. You right there, Katie? So when you put that small roll, tuck it up behind the knee joint and sit back so you feel a little bit thicker thing behind the knee. Press down onto the calf when you sit back on your heels again. So by adding thickness to the space behind the knee with the blanket or pillows or whatever you're using, you make the connection of the calf to the knee spread a little bit more. This can be as torturous or as easy as you want, based on how thick you make it. Good. Make the roll small or a little bit bigger now. Make the small roll just a tiny bit bigger. And I mean a tiny bit. I don't mean like do a full roll so it grows from like this to this. Like you need to grow in increments of 1/4 inches, not like full inches or so. Notice if your heels have wanted to start coming apart, pull your heels close towards each other. And then push your shins and your knees down into the floor. A lot of the poses that work the knee, the shin, the calf, the hip from seated actually require an active component to it by activating the legs. Instead of just our body weight flattening us out, push your knee joint down harder and then lean your body weight back towards your heels a little bit. So as I said in the start, you know, we don't always have to have brand new answers for stuff that we're going through. Some of these people you might have done a number of times, but you're a different person than yesterday. You're in a different situation than yesterday. The passage of time is the great constant change. So it's good to look at what you've already got, where you are, and then change from there rather than think you have nothing. You can always do something with what you have. And it may even be say that's not right in this time. Choosing not to do something with something is still doing something with it, right? Lean back, take your hands onto the floor behind you if you can. You make all the faces you want. I didn't ask for this. Push your knees down as much as you go back. So if you feel yourself go back and your knees become light on the floor, push that knee joint down. Mr. Unger was very clear about this, that a lot of these poses like this require the knee pressing down into the floor. This stretches the connective tissue of the knee, it stabilizes the knee joint, it will stretch your quad, but it also changes how the upper muscles of the leg go down into the calf and shin and all that surrounding area. Come on up. Take the blanket or the prop out from behind your knees. And now with your feet on top of your blankets or bolster, whatever you're using, cross your right foot over your left arch. And now look at your feet when you do this. Don't just cross ankle over ankle, but actively look at your foot and make sure it's the foot over the arch of the other foot. And then sit back. Yeah, easy peasy. Push your knees down into the ground. Tuck your hips a little bit so your weight really drops into that heel. And then lean back. Take your hands towards the floor. When you take your hands back, push the knee down so you can tuck your hips, but bring your hips down towards your heels. So it's a tuck under and a pressure down. So you're pushing the bones of your thighs against your quads and your knees, but then leaning your body back to stretch the muscle of the leg across the bone deeper, like pulling skin across a drum frame. Oh, your instep should be digging into your arch. I'm super happy for you. Come on up, switch feet. Then once you've crossed one foot over the other, take your hands back, push your knees down, and after your hands are settled, tuck your hips under more, and then press your hips down onto your heels more. And for some of us, that's just killer. Footwork is just an absolute nightmare. But as I've always said, if you want to get to the root of issues going on in your body, you got to go to the lowest part. The feet are as low as it gets. You tell me you got a hip, knee, or ankle issue, I'm going to look at your arches and your toes first. When you tuck the hips, make sure you tuck each right and left buttock equally. It's easy just to do one side versus the other. Press each knee down equally, so you're working actively in both parts. Exhale, up you come. Sit on your bolster or blankets or whatever. Stretch your legs straight out in front of you, and then Dasana for a moment. So with both legs straight in front of you, thighs together, you can use a block behind you or just your fingertips. Lift your spine up as straight as you can, just to give your hands something to do. Flex the toes, pulling the toes back towards your face. This is called dorsal flexion of the foot. The more you do the toe work we just did, the better it will get, which means healthier arch, ankles, and so. But when you're here and pulling the toes back like this, you want to try and pull the pinky toe back is equal to the big toe. And notice, for most of us, it's easier to pull the big toe back and not the pinky toe. So you got to try and stretch both sides of that foot back towards your body and then learn to keep it. The more than you learn to not flex your ankle, but flex through the toe joint, it was coming down, the better. But this usually just starts with, can I get my pinky toe to move as much as my big toe? This actually has a lot to do with the muscles that run around the shin and into the calf, because when we overwork one side of the foot, let's say the big toe, it overworks the front muscle of the shin and not the outer calf. We overwork the pinky toe side, it works the inner calf and not much else. So we actually create a lot of tension in our legs just by the pressure and the flexion of our toes. This is why in classes I'll teach a lot, or in classes I teach often enough, you'll hear me talk about pushing a toe into the floor, specific toes, usually the big toe, pinky toe, but that's to help your calf inner and outer engage to stabilize knee joints, stabilize your hip. Always work through the toes first. So now your toes are pulled back. Now point your foot away from you as far as you can, like your foot was going to lay flat on the floor. This is very challenging to do. And then look at your foot and notice which side of the foot goes closest to the floor the easiest, probably the pinky toe side. That means you got to push down through that big toe joint harder, like you're going to curl the arch down into the floor. Chest up. Even if you just did this in itself is a very active pose in yoga that's not emphasized about how beneficial it can be to point and elongate your foot like this, because this makes both sides of your calf flex and lift, but it stretches the front side of the shin down into the ankle. Now, the more you do this, the better. I would recommend, if you are someone who's feeling, like you really want to practice some fun with this, is sit with your back to a wall and put weights on your foot. Like I have sandbags, just put them on and sit there and let them curl them down over time as I actively flex and push it. I'm not saying go find a bunch of bags right now or weights right now, but you can do it later. So just even here, flex the thigh, push the foot down like you're trying to take the sole of the foot flat. It is hard to do both. It's hard to keep your thigh flexed and your foot pointed, because the thighs want to give out so you can push your knee down, which makes your calf grip, which makes it kind of fools your body into thinking you're doing it. The more you flex the quad, the large muscle of the leg between your knee and your hip, and push the foot down, what you're doing is using the leg muscle to pull the calf towards your hip, and you're using the foot to stretch the calf and the shin away from the hip. So 2 points moving opposite makes space in between. Some of you have heard me say this a lot. A little shaky. You're looking. So keep pointing, keep flexing the thighs. Now, for fun, cross your big toe over your second toe. What that means is with your foot, your big toe crosses over your second toe and squeezes it. So it looks like you have 4 toes now. Now, if your toes won't listen to you and do that, feel free to reach down there, grab them and cross them, and then squeeze them super tight together, and then point your foot and stretch it down. Grab, cross, and point. For some of us, this will make our pinky toe side of the foot roll harder towards the floor. You have to flex the thigh and push the big toe joint down harder now. If you're going to have a foot cramp, it's probably going to be on this one. So when you press that big toe down into the second toe, try and stretch that big toe joint down to the floor while flexing the thighs. Just so this doesn't get boring, keep your left leg exactly as it is. Draw your right knee towards your chest. Pick up your right shin with both hands and pull the shin towards the chest. You can wrap your arm around it. You can just even hold the leg just like loosely like so you feel that hip. But then look at your left foot. For most of us, the foot flipped up. Point the foot, flex your left thigh, and push that big toe joint down as you pull that right shin bone up. So what you're doing is, by elongating the left leg like this, we talked about the elongation of the shin, the calf, you're actually teaching as you flex the left thigh, you're teaching the bones of the leg to be much more stable in the hip, which helps release the low back. And when you pull that right leg up, you're pulling all that muscle into a stretch and making your upper back work. Now, we can stretch shins and calves and hips and ankles and knees all day. Without stabilizing muscle to hold it up, hold the upper body up, we will fall into the old habits again. So we work with the stability we have and build from there. Point that left foot, cross that big toe over the second toe still, and then push that big toe joint down. And then, just to keep it fun, look at your right foot. It's up in your arm, point it, and then cross your second toe over the big toe here, and pull that shin through your body as you're pointing that big toe, crossing it, and squeeze and pointing it as hard as you can to make the curve of the arch here. And remember, someone asked for this, and we love them for it. Who knew we could have gotten so much from it? Someone speaking their truth is one of the most wonderful things. All right, bring your right leg down. Stretch your right leg out. Point both feet. Cross the big toe over the second toe on each foot. We still have a whole other side to do. It's Thursday. I don't know if there's anything special about Thursday, but it's Thursday. It's just what we're doing. Cross your big toe over your second toe. Really get them over. Tristan didn't want me to help her. Once you cross the toes, push the toes down. Flex your thighs. Keep your right leg very much engaged in that action. And now bend your left knee. Pull the shin up. Pick up and hold it towards your chest. And hold here. I'll be right back. good. So right foot pointed, right thigh flexed. Be sure to try and keep that right leg engaged. This is what's going to help a lot of the pelvis stability down to the legs. Right big toe over second toe, pushing down as you flex the right thigh. And then the foot that's in the air, point it. So there's pointing, I hope we're clear, and flexing. Point the foot and then cross the big toe over the second toe and point it hard into the arm. Chest up, hold. You think, oh my God, how long do we have to hold this? I don't know, we might hold it for the next 28 minutes till class is over, or your internet suddenly has a disconnect, right? Anyone here guilty of that yet on the Zoom meeting where they're like, oh God, I don't need to be in this meeting. You know what? Oh no, my internet died. No, no one here. We're all too honest for that. We're the honest yogis. Keep pulling the shin to your chest, point the feet. Really activate the foot, then activate the thighs, and then activate the chest and arms. Go in that order and try to keep them. Let the leg down. Point both feet. So after you point both feet, crossing big toe over second toe, we're not done yet. Oh, you know what? I'm getting enough looks. Instead of crossing big toe over second toe, cross your second toe over your big toe. So the big toe goes behind the second toe. This is the one that gives me a foot cramp. So when you cross the big toe over the second toe, you're working the outer muscles of your arch that go into your inner calf. When you cross the second toe over the big toe, you work the direct center of your arch up into your calf and more. So, yeah, you just forgot. So once you cross second toe over big toe, point the foot, curl the arch down towards the floor. And flex the thighs, lift the chest up. Don't worry, there'll be another fun part added to this, but just experiment with what it is to flex the foot and elongate the shin away from the knee while flexing the thigh, pulling the thigh bone back. So it's that separation action. The foot's dragging the shin away from the knee, the thighs pulling back towards the hip. So now, just to keep it fun, bend your left knee, keep your right leg exactly as is, second toe over big toe, even if you have to use your hands. When I first started, I used rubber bands to hold them in place for a long time. Pick your foot up and just hold your foot with both hands in front of you. Don't go higher than your knee though. Keep it at least, no higher than this point and can be lower. But while you're here, cross your second toe over your big toe on the left foot and point the foot really hard. So the hand is really holding the arch of the foot. Oh, that no cramp can happen. And y'all put up with this. So big toe over second toe, arch is really trying to curl over the hands, deep as it can. Work your right foot. Push the foot into the hand, but pull your chest up right. So if your arms are long when you do this, even if your foot's down here and you lift your chest up, it stretches your shoulder, opens the chest and back muscles. Work them feetsies. This might be very challenging for a lot of us because the minute you get into the feet, everything else through your body has to respond over. I'm not saying that reflexology is totally a true thing, but there are some mechanical things that affect all the rest of your body through your feet. Especially your attitude. Right about now, most of you are really debating having an internet problem. I get it. But I'm grateful you're still here. I'm grateful these two are still here. They're just holding on. Now, if you want more, point the foot, hold the heel, and stretch the leg up. But that foot's trying to curl over the whole time. So your shin elongates, thigh elongates. You don't even have to. You can hold your foot here and just enjoy whatever torture you're getting out of it. Push those toes into each other. Second toe into big toe, especially. Bring the leg down. Let's switch it up. Left leg straight. Cross the big toe, second toe over big toe. There. I will say, for those of you curious, there are other toe crossing combos that I've been working with, but we're not going to get into today because I think that's when the revolution happens, right? So second toe over big toe, pull your right knee up, is it? Yeah. Pull your right knee towards your chest, grab your arch of your foot or the heel, because you want the foot to be able to point and elongate with that crisscross point of big toe to second toe, and really push that toe over those hands. Actually, I'm using my hands to draw the flesh of my arch towards my heel as I cross that second toe over that big toe, and it really goes into a cramp state almost instantly for me. And just pick your chest up and then work your left leg. Cross big toe over second toe over big toe, stretch it out. Flex your thigh. Right, some of these are poses we've done many times before, but you know, mess your toe, you add one little change and it's all the difference in the world. If you cannot hold your foot up like this, it's okay to put your foot up on a block or something, on a chair or any other elevation, just so your leg that's in front of you, your right leg, has some extra height to the body. It may not stay that way, but that's okay. You don't have to do this full lifted, powerful idea of the pose. You just do some little bit. Right? You work with what you got. We're all here doing our thing together. Huh, Christy? Grab that foot. If you fall out of the pose, breathe, get back into it. Point that foot that's in the air, really curl it over the hands. And then if you want more, you can straighten the leg up. Cross the toes, work them hard. Make your back work. This is very tiring on the back muscle. So that's why after this, good news, you'll probably get to lay down. Yeah. Sure. It's always a trip. All right, legs down. Grab a block or a bolster or whatever you're using for height to your hips. And I'm going to have Tristan show this on camera first, and then you can all do it. Lay this one. Don't move from that. Just lay across the table. So Tristan's going to lay on her back. We're going to do bridge pose, but we're going to do a couple different things inside bridge pose to continue to work these areas. So she's going to lay down. I'll try and make this demo brief. She's going to lift her hips and put the block flat or on edge under your sacral plate. So let me see the block for a second. So remember, flat, edge. You pick. You don't like your back work done too much, you can pick this. All right. You want a little bit more, you can pick this. Don't go to this yet. Wait for that one. She's going to pick her poison. So we're going to do a few different things with the legs. We're not going to demo those. They're pretty easy to go through. But the one that is really challenging for a lot of people, for our toes and our shins and our calves, is this one. Tristan's going to pick her left heel up and pull her foot close to her buttock. She's going to take her left hand down and grab the top of her foot. She's going to pull her top of her foot, her toes first, towards the floor. And now move your hands so they can see. So you see the top of the foot's flat. And so that if she pulled the foot closer to her body, the top of the foot would go flatter to the floor. This stretches all of this stuff quite deeply. And the hip psoas and everything else. For most of us, I promise you, you'll probably get to like here, you'll flip your toes under, and you'll freak out. Good, freak out, get back in it, and keep working on it. It'll be better. And especially if you can just get off the toes and pull the foot a little bit closer and get some of the foot on it, it takes some of the pressure off the toes. All right, you've seen, go lay down. You can get on with your Yeah, you don't want your pelvis towards the camera. All right, laying on your back, whatever you want under your hips and back, right under your sacrum. Like I said, there's going to be a few other things we do to help prep for this, but by and large, we're just going to make you go this for too long. Squeeze your shoulder blades together, dome your heart, cross your right ankle over your left thigh. And just let your knee open up here. Just a small action. And remember, if the block is too much under your hips, use a blanket. Use a bolster. You don't have to be locked into just one prop. Use what you need to be where you're at. Go ahead, switch legs. So take your left foot onto the floor. Now slide your right foot under your left leg. It'll stay on the floor. Slide your right foot under and let your right knee fall to the floor. Right foot slides under left leg and just let your right knee fall to the right. Yeah. Your left knee stays up in the air. It's not a twist of your hips. Your hip stays on the block. Shubha, so your left knee stays up. Slide your right foot under your left leg and let your knee fall to the floor. That's it. Switch your legs. You might get a lot of quad work here. You might feel this in your pelvis muscles, the psoas, the hip flexors. That's normal. All right, take your left foot out. The doom time is upon you. Slide your right foot as close to your butt as you can get. Take your right hand and grab the top of your right foot. So get up on the heel real high off the floor, grab the foot with your hand, turn your toes under so your toenails touch the floor, and then pull that foot in just a little bit. For some of us, it goes into cramp. Some of it might ache. Do the best you can. Even if your hand stays holding the foot the whole time because you're just like so afraid to let it go. And then once you're here, regardless of how far you are in it, push your 5 toenails down into the floor like you're going to flatten them out. So you stretch deep into that ankle shin. A few more seconds. There's not much to do except just practice this pose as is. There's no trick around it. This is just when you have to dedicate some time to for the health of your feet, your quads, your knees, backward bends. But enough chat. Let's switch sides because even I'm starting to hurt looking at you all do it. Pull the left foot in. Grab the top of your foot with your left hand. Turn the toes under or turn the toes flat towards the floor. Pull it into whatever depth you can hold it for. And then push those toenails into the floor. Actively engage the leg. You want to get a lot of the muscle into the shins. There's really no other way to go to it except through the feet. In all honesty. And we're not even fully into the calf yet. There's lots of stuff we can continue to do to the calf. We have some time for some more after. Don't worry. We'll do a classic pose to help the calf muscles.
That's a lot of pressure on your kneecap. Is that just stretching?
All right. Ready for the fun part? Both at the same time. I mean, I can't make you do it. I'm not in the room with you, but I'm just saying, you came all this way. You might as well try it. Oh, yeah. Once you get your feet wherever they're going to get, push those toenails into that floor. So even if your toes are just under your knees even, you still work that action. You still stretch and engage the body to lengthen in that way. Something so simple as a toe stretch can be incredibly complex for the body. You don't have to have new answers for everything you come across. You practice the thing you know, you practice because it's good for you, and you explore about how it can affect and change things. And that's kind of science, right? We do the things that we know to something, and then we see what they react to. That's experimentation. All right, enough of that. Take your hips up into the air, take your block out, lower your spine to the floor, stretch your legs out, relax your back for a moment, legs. No, don't get all Savasana cozy yet. We're not there. There you go. Roll to your side, up you come. Tristan, hand me that blanket. So using downward dog to stretch the calves is a very commonplace thing. It can be very good, and we're going to use it for that, but I'm going to kind of show a modified way I've used in the past to do so. I like to use a blanket. If you have a foam roller, they're really good for that, but I use a blanket. I roll it up like this, and I lay it across the mat. I'm going to ask Miss Tristan to turn away from the camera, grab a block. So watch her for a brief moment. She's going to put the block between her calf muscles wide. So you want the block nice and wide across the calf, so it pulls your feet about hip width apart. She's going to lift up into downward dog. And if you'll notice, I'll turn the camera down a little easier. You see, she's going to walk her feet back. So her feet are, her heels are just up over the top of that blanket. Yeah, just like this. She's going to squeeze the block nice and hard, not just with the upper calf, but the lower calf. And then she's going to push her heels down into that. Now, when she pushes her heels down into the blanket, that's not hard. We can drop all our body weight down. The trick is that she has to try and roll her heels back over the blanket, like she's trying to unroll the blanket along the floor. This is why a foam roller works really well, is because the foam roller is naturally going to roll a little bit. How does that feel, true? As she says, it feels great. The block stabilizes your shin to knee, but when you push, your heels go down, you push your heel back like you're just literally trying to roll the blanket away from you. Good? Stretches them out. She says, uh-huh. All right, let's go to it. So if you don't have a blanket, use a towel, 2 towels rolled up, anything roundish. Rolling pin, tubular in shape. So block between your calves, hips up in the air, walk your feet back to that. There you go, Shuba. Great. Use another yoga mat. Awesome. So your toes are turned under. Turn your toes under, Barb. Don't take your feet like that. The top of the feet are not flat, dear. No, Barb. Barb, walk your knees forward 2 inches. There you go. Walk your feet forward 2 or 3 inches. Now do down dog. Nope, get off. Yeah, just like that, Barb. Go up. Now, there you go. So the arch of the foot is in the is on the arch of the roll of the blanket or whatever. And then once your arch is on it, push your heels over it like you're trying to unroll the blanket. So your toes may float up off the floor. Your front 5 joints may even float up off the floor. That's fine. But squeeze the block, push your heels over that, and you'll get this length to the backside of the leg that if you've ever heard a yoga teacher say, stretch your outer heel back and your inner heel up, usually this yoga teacher and his teachers, you're going to get that same action. This is the lengthening action of the calf and down dog that actually lengthens the leg and keeps your ankles from collapsing. So stretch over, roll your foot over that blanket. So your arms work, your back works, all that. And hold. Take a couple breaths, because the first time you learn it, exhale, come down for a second. Tighten up your rolls if they flattened out. Second time, you feel it. Third time, you'll experience it. The tighter the roll, the better. So like I said, foam rollers work well. Thick rolled yoga mats do also. Large pieces of PVC pipe, I guess. I don't know. You get weird with the props. Squeeze the calf into the block. Lift your hips up. So the toes are still on the floor in front of the blanket. And then, there you go, Barb. Stretch your heels, your arches onto the blanket, and then stretch your heels over the blanket. Push it back. So your foot may even roll up off the floor a little bit. That's all right. How's that feel, Trish? Stretching? How does it feel, Elise? Yeah. Stretch your legs out. So part of what this does is it elongates the backside of the leg, but it also lifts the shin. Downward dog is one of those poses that can do amazing things to the body if we structurally get it really stable and engaged. This also will help the shin muscles because it pushes the shin bone into the muscle itself, so it will stretch and lengthen that side of it and give some relief to all that. Puppy's now going to do his upward dog in front of the camera. None of you can see, but watch the video playback later. Go on down. Good job. Lay on your backs. Close your eyes. Put a blanket under your head and neck. Something under your knees if you want. Have a few extra minutes of restorative. So maybe 3, because it's Thursday. You deserve a day for rest. Doesn't always have to be the weekend. All right, my friends. Let the eyes close. Tongue away from the roof of the mouth. Relax your jaw so the teeth do not touch. For a few minutes, allow yourself the quiet space to acknowledge what you're going through day in and day out in any which way you want. There be a sigh or a huff or an exhale or just a flexion in the body. And then when you exhale, let it go. And look at what your yoga practice has given you the chance to experience. It's different. How you and your yoga practice have applied what you know, that you're dedicated, that you can, that you're capable to what you're going through. And by doing so, you've taken what you know. You didn't have to reinvent the wheel. You just remind yourself that it can spin. It's easy to get into the idea that we always have to have some new answer, some new product, some new technique, some new teaching. When in reality, you've already been given so much. Spin it. You know you got the wheel. So spin it as much as you can on the problems you got. Along the way, you might refine and define new ways to make it easier or better, or note how it doesn't actually work. And then the conversation changes and evolves, and you've moved the practice forward. You've enriched it and yourself in the way in that process. So, my friends, for the next few moments, with a deep breath in, slow breath out, rest and enjoy the fruits of your yogic practice. Slowly increase the depths of your breathing. Begin to awaken the body, opening, closing the hands, pointing, flexing the feet. Roll your body to the side. Press your palms into the floor and slowly up you come. Thank you all so much for being here. Announcement before we go is that I will be taking the next week off. There will be a sub for the Tuesday and Thursday class. I'm not aware of who that is yet. I'm sure Jonathan will put info about that in due time. I'm not sick. No one's hurt or anything. Just taking a week off for my own vacation, mental health time. This is very close to when we would be going to Italy for the yoga retreat. And so I'm just going to cook a lot of pasta and sit under a palm tree and maybe get some sand to put my feet in and just recreate, the decompression as best I can. Other than that, that's it. If you want to ask a question now's a good time for it. But if not, namaste. Thank you all so much for being here.